This is Ida Byrd-Hill. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Wow, did I say that?
Yeah, you are
What am I
fine.
thinking? What am I thinking? Anyway, they're young bloods, these guys. But Ode to the Younger Man is a poem I wrote. But Ida, I met this lady a couple of months ago, and I've been so fascinated with her and the things that she's doing. And she has a new book called The Invisible Talent Market. And I can't wait to get into this because there's so much talent. People need jobs, but, um, well, what's that last part? Solving the talent shortage without outsourcing
And visas.
and visas. Oh, that is really interesting.
hmm
Ida, are you a lifelong Detroiter? Or?
I am not. Actually, I have resided in Detroit for the last 26 years. I'm a native of Flint, Michigan, via Ann Arbor, because I went to the University of Michigan. So I've been here long enough. I've raised my children, and they've gone on and did their lives. They're in college and moving into their career. But I'm a little concerned about what I see going on as it relates to the next generation of young people and the opportunities for them.
What do you see as far as lack of opportunity? Because I'm asking you this because when I came up, and I'm older than you, I did not have as many resources, period, as a lot of these young people. Their programs and all of these types of programs for them. I had junior achievement. That was it.
Well, there's a lot of programs, but what happens is that a lot of the programming is limited based on grades. And in the African American and black community, people don't really seem to understand that determines where you go. It's your currency. It gets you, it's your money. Between now and the age of 18, grades kind of dictates what you are involved in. And I just don't think that our community sometimes understands that's how that works. And so a lot of times a lot of the programming is cut off from them because they don't have the grades to get in. And so one of the things that we want people to first of all to understand is that education is really, it's your money. I used to tell my kids when they came home they got A's on their report card, I'm gonna give you some money. People go, why would you do that? Because that's their money, that's their job, that's how they get paid, and they need to understand that is a currency. You use it to your advantage, and either you get great grades and you get all these opportunities. If you get bad grades, you get hardly no opportunities. So it's a currency.
Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking about that money for grades. My father still owes me $8, but God rest his
I
soul.
collected my money when they owed it to
Oh
me.
man, I got all those A's, and I did. I said, I hear they are, but they should want to just get the grades just for the sake of I'm advancing on, I'm able to get that more opportunities. But all students are not A students. All
hmm
students are not B students.
hmm
There's that C student, or there's that student who's very smart, but school does not engage him.
Yeah, and that's actually a lot of kids, and primarily a lot of our boys. School is
Yeah.
not really made for boys because boys are really hands-on. They like to touch things. They like to experiment with things. They like to blow up things. I mean, they're just very active students, and schools really want them to sit still and be still. But the world is really an active world.
I
It's a
believe
hands-on
I
world.
believe in that.
And it's
Yes.
becoming more so right now. We talk about skilled trades, and when people think about skilled trades, they think about construction. But what people are not really paying attention is that the new skilled trade is computer programming. The development of webs, the development of websites, the development of video games, the coding. That's a skilled trade, and you use your hands. And a lot of times we don't engage our children until they get too old, 11th and 12th grade in high school, when they really need to be engaged in those activities much younger.
Much younger. And
Much
aren't they
younger.
starting to do that with coding?
They are. You got a lot of different coding programs. You got coding
Explain to the
softwares.
audience what coding is.
Coding is literally where you're actually creating some symbols in on the computer that actually gives the computer some life. So you can develop a website, you can develop video games, you can develop all type of software that runs on a computer. And so all coding is the language behind that software. So if you learn the language, you can create anything that you choose to, apps, mobile apps, just anything. And so that's kind of what's driving the world is that technology. Because every company right now has an app. If they're in business, they got to have an app of some type. They got to have a website. No website is like is killer for a business.
I
So
agree.
coding is really a
I
big
agree.
deal. The problem is you don't see many African Americans in coding. We're just almost non-existent. And part of it is because a lot of times you don't have that coding or computer science in schools, and so we're getting into it a little late.
Well, I've had some people on this program. In fact, a few months ago, they do run a coding thing for young people
Hmm.
downtown. There are some things starting to creep up, and I know there's some people who get involved with coding with some other people who are getting involved with coding. I can't think of her name right now, but she does a lot of that. So the more, the merrier, I guess you say.
But it really needs to be in the schools. It needs to be in middle
Oh, I
schools.
agree.
It needs to be in high schools. I tell people, and I'm a lot older than I look, but I had computer science in 1979 in school, and back then it was BASIC, COBOL, and Fortran, very
Right,
old languages.
right.
But it opened up so many doors for me when I went into banking because COBOL is the foundation of banking. And so I am just mystified that if I had it in 1979, well, I can walk into a typical urban school and they don't have computer science in the middle of the digital revolution. We're in
That
the middle
doesn't
of
make
it.
any sense
And
whatsoever.
so they have closed off so many opportunities to our young people because you don't need to be 18 to create an app. If you had coding at 12, you could create apps at 12 and make money. So they're
Absolutely.
closing off so many doors to our young people, and that really, really bothers me, which is what made me write the book. Because one of the things that school is, as I said, education is your currency, and if you don't get enough of that currency when you're 0 to 18, it severely limits you thereafter. And I'm just concerned that our young people are not being open for jobs because they're not getting the necessary training that's needed in the 21st century.
Absolutely. And it's really a crime.
I say
I,
it's a crime, it's malpractice, it's a whole
right.
bunch of things, but it is killing our community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many things that are killing our community, and the lack of education, a full education, is one of them. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about automation. Let's talk about that real quick.
Well, everything is being automated, which is why I say that not having technology and computer science in schools is a crime. Everything in this country is being automated. MIT Technology Review did a study about 4 or 5 years ago with Oxford that says that 45% of the jobs in America by 2033 are going to be automated. And
Think
people,
about that. Let's stop and think about that for a minute, because we hear all the time about driverless trucks.
oh,
I mean,
but driverless trucks. But let's go
okay.
basic. When you go to the grocery store, so it used to be when you went to the grocery store, you had 20 cashiers.
Right.
Now you go to the self-service line where you
Right.
have 20 self-service cashiers and one physical body. Most people do not realize those are robots.
Right.
And it's right, it happens so subtle, we didn't even notice it.
Right.
So now I have 20 robots that self-service you, and one cashier manages 20 robots. That's automation. Now we don't really think about that much because it just happens so subtle, but that means 20
Oh, I
people
think
lost their
about I
jobs.
think about the fact that people don't have jobs. I look at the
Right.
banking
Hmm.
industry. In the banking industry, I don't even have to go inside a bank.
No, you don't. No, you don't. So you have ATMs, but now you can do it online on your cell phone, which it technically is a robot.
Right.
So the automation is happening kind of slowly, and we're not really paying that much attention because it is happening
I think
slowly.
they need to pay
But
attention.
it's ratcheting upward. I use a good example. You used to have to throw up your hand and to wave for a taxi. Now you have Lyft and Uber and all those type of
You
companies,
do it
and
on
you
your
hit an
phone.
app, you pay for it in advance, and somebody shows up to pick you up. That's a robot.
Absolutely. Right.
It's a
Absolutely.
robot.
We have a call. We have Kwame on the line. Good morning.
Yes, I like to ask you, guess, is um, COBOL still the basis of banking?
Would you say cobalt?
Yeah, the language.
Yeah, I think that they still use COBOL
They
as the
still
basis
use
for
it,
the
huh?
mainframes for banking. It's
Mm.
how they actually automated most of banking. I have to laugh with that because people forget that how much automation has played. When I walked into banking, I was a check filer. People go, "What do you mean?" When you got your statements with your checks in them, somebody physically filed those checks. And I remember when we got the first machine, because it was created by COBOL, the software was created off COBOL, that literally instead of having the 5 people in my department who filed those checks, now I have a computer robot that filed the checks into a paper statement. And so the bulk of banking moved with that COBOL software into automation. Now, I'm telling my age because I am 50. That's been 30 years ago.
Oh, 50. I got,
That was 30 years ago. So the languages may be changing now, but that was the fundamental language that banking used was COBOL.
Well, I remember when COBOL was an issue because it was they wanted to change it. That was a big issue, and I thought they would change it by now.
And
But
they probably
I
have.
just will you answer my question?
They probably
All
have, but
right,
as I
thank
said, it was
you.
30 years ago.
thank you, Kwame.
Hmm.
Um, Amazing. I mean, I look at things, I notice so much, and I notice so much that we don't have to do. They can, McDonald's,
Hmm.
they don't need people.
And it's funny you should say that because McDonald's has actually created a robot for their drive-through. They haven't rolled it out to the whole public yet, but eventually, when you go to McDonald's, you're not even gonna have a body like you go and you order and they go to give you your money. Not gonna happen anymore. You're gonna put the money into the little machine. It'll take your money and go to the other window, and then some robot's gonna give you your food.
Absolutely. Now, we have, tell us about automation
Works.
works, automation works.
Automation Works is an actual scavenger hunt that we created to get parents mainly involved with their students in technology. Because one of the things that technology requires is being able to invent, because you need to be creative and come up with new ideas, science to solve a problem, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And we've been moving kind of slowly and really enjoying those subjects. So we created a scavenger hunt called Automation Works, which happens at the North American International Auto Show, where parents and their children are competing with these activities for cash prizes. And so they're running all over the auto show with the manufacturing booths. They're doing hands-on activities in our space, competing for cash prizes. On 2017, the prizes were 350 for the top family, 250 for the second place family, and 150 for the third place family.
Like I say, I'm going to get my little staff and we're going to be family.
Come on
I
over.
am the
Come on
mama.
over. Come on over.
So I think we have a video about that. Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing, amazing. And so the parents come out, everybody. I mean, what kind of clues what do they have to
Well,
find?
sometimes like with the scavenger hunt, like the one year we had the welding robot, which you saw the red
Yes.
arms with the automation works. That's an actual robot in an actual factory. And so that one year they actually brought down the 5,000 pound welding robot, and the parents and the children actually programmed the robot to weld, so they can see what that looks like. We've had drones where they can program drones to see how they fly. We've had mind control robots where they could use their brain and move robots on the table. Last year we had a geometry assignment where they actually had a robot that's a sphere that they rolled around the floor to measure angles. So it's a lot of technology that you don't really think about, but it's happening everywhere.
It's happening everywhere,
Everywhere,
and
everywhere.
like in the plant. Really, they use so many robots in the plant.
I would say most of the plants have been hollowed out. I mean, one of the reasons why we have such high unemployment is most of our people worked in the plant screwing on widgets. The day of screwing on widgets is gone.
It's gone.
It's now you're operating a robot to screw on the widgets. Like if you go into most plants right now and the cars are being painted, there are no people to paint them. The robots paint them, but someone programs the robots to make the paint happen. And that's where most of the jobs are moving towards.
Into programming and so
Absolutely,
forth.
and installing and repairing robots. And one of the reasons why we did Automation Works because people are not paying attention to that. They're complaining that I can't find a job, but there are jobs. The problem is they require a different skill set.
Right.
And so the skill set all evolves around computer programming either installing a robot, either managing a robot, or repairing a robot.
So, invisible talent market. Let's talk about it.
Well, this is my newest book, and it only has 155 pages, and I'm really excited about it. It's a small book, but it's a powerful book. I'm an economist by training, so I look at things from an economic point of view. And anytime that you have struggles in finding a job with high unemployment, that means you cannot provide for your families economically. That also means that your community becomes poorer because you don't have the money to buy things. And one of the things that has happened to us all throughout the history of Black America, that we have struggled with unemployment, particularly as we're starting to make a change from one economic revolution to the next. And so, but what I'm trying to do in the book is to do two things. Number one, to talk to the Black community to say, guess what? We're in a new economic revolution, which is a digital technological revolution. Let's get those skills that are necessary for you to continue your employment. But then to secondly have a conversation with corporate America to say, let's have a real talk, that our schools are not equipping African Americans for those jobs. And while you're complaining about immigration, because there is a complaint about immigration, because a lot of the tech workers are East Indian or Chinese, they're coming from overseas, that I have a big burgeoning community that is very tech savvy with consumer products that could fill that void if they had the proper training.
Right.
And so I talk about that in the book, and I give a historical context to that, because what people don't know is African Americans controlled skilled trades. When we came out of slavery, we had all of the skills in this country, and our country created what they call land grant colleges to teach, white people the skilled trades. And from that day forward, we have been arguing and fighting over jobs. One of the issues we had with the 1967 race riot was the lack of jobs. And so every major race riot we have had in this country has come down to economics and jobs. But instead of us looking at it and saying, wait a minute, let's time out with that for a minute. If that's what the issue is, then we need to figure out how do we get those jobs. And the only way you get those jobs is to embrace education. Get whatever you can off the table.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's really malpractice and criminal, because, I taught, and they were teaching in fact, even in the 80s, they were teaching, where I was teaching, they were teaching people, not only, they had the auto shop and they had those kind of trades, which they've taken a lot of those like trades out of the schools too.
Yes, they have.
Because as a mechanic,
you can make a little bit of money.
You can make so much money. And I mean, because you'll always have to be there kind of evaluating something. Cars are going to break down.
But cars are robotic.
Yes.
Right now, a car
And
is the biggest robot ever. And you still have to have computer programming for the car today.
My car is a computer.
It's a computer.
I mean, the other day it tells me we have to upgrade your, they had to do something to upgrade. They got a new program. The software in my car.
And that's moving forward. And the thing that is amazing is that, like, we talk about self-driving cars, and you mentioned self-driving trucks. To me, self-driving trucks are going to have a bigger impact than self-driving cars. And let me tell you why. 30% of the truck drivers in America are African American. And what people are not paying attention is that while we're tinkering with self-driving cars, really the impetus is on the self-driving truck. Because if I can eliminate that body driving that truck as a company, that saves me a lot of money. And I'll give you a good example. A few months ago, we had Budweiser commissioned the first self-driving truck that drove 120 miles from Denver, Colorado to Colorado Springs to deliver a load of beer. It had no driver. And people go, what do you mean it had, just like I said, it had no driver. The driver was sitting in a sleeper cab reading a book while the truck drove itself. That is amazingly phenomenal.
We have another phone call. We have Sylvia on the line. Good morning, Sylvia.
Good morning. Great show. I just chimed in, and from the little bit that I did just hear her say, we are definitely in dire and desperate need of more support educationally. The fact that technology, we need to constantly be updated on new technology. They're talking about robots now. Somebody's going to need to learn how to program these robots.
That's what we've been saying.
And the list goes on, and it's just so unfair, the fact that we had the Davidson Aerospace School, and they dismantled that and took away the opportunity for our students to be pilots and mechanics. So they constantly dismantle our school system while building systems for others to stay in competition mode. So we definitely need to fight the good fight to fight for equality in our education as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I agree, but I think that a lot of times we have to fight from the standpoint of education, which is why I wrote the book.
Absolutely.
Because I want people to go out and get some knowledge behind what you're doing. And as it relates to Davis Aerospace, it was a phenomenal school. But it has a grand opportunity because right now you have drones that are coming to be, and someone has to pilot those drones. What people don't realize is that Amazon is tinkering with all type of logistics systems.
Yes, they are.
And what one of their systems is, they want to be able to deliver your package on a drone, so that I could be able to go take a little piece of paper, the landing pad, put it out on my front lawn or backyard lawn, and the drone will land on that spot and deliver my package. I take my package, sign for it electronically. That drone will go back up in the air where it's going to its
Yes.
airship and move on.
Yes.
That's happening right now.
Well, day before yesterday or evening before last, I was looking. My daughter-in-law's coming to town and my son and everything today. And I was looking, I said, dang, she loves Starbucks coffee. I said, I don't have any of that. So I went on Amazon. I just ordered it. Yesterday morning, it was there.
Absolutely.
It didn't take 12 hours.
That happens like that, and that's the world that we're going to. But when our kids and our parents, because we don't just look at the kids, the parents need to go back and retool themselves as well.
Need to be prepared.
We got to be prepared because life is changing, and it's changing rapidly. But even better yet, because it is changing rapidly, you're making money. My son is still in college; he's in his 4th year, and he's making $32.50 an hour as a web developer. When he graduates, he's going to make $50 an hour. Well, that's $100,000 for a person in their early 20s. The money is there, but we have to get it off the table. And part of getting it off the table is to get that education and understand that the education, if you can't get it K through 12, then do some self-study and go online and learn it and tinker with it yourself.
Be aggressive about
Yes.
your education. That's what I can say.
Yes.
Be aggressive, because anything I've ever wanted to learn to do, I've sought it out
Right.
and learned how to do it.
And with the internet, you can find anything. Like I'm taking classes at MIT online.
Oh, are you?
Not paying them; they're free actually.
Oh, I
And so
couldn't do
I'm-
that.
I'm-
Not
okay.
MIT. You have to know how to add. But anyway,
But I'm learning some coding because I'm trying to learn some coding to keep up with my son. But my thing is, if you can't get it K through 12, go to the other options that are out in the community that are online, because right now the whole world is at your fingertips. You can learn
Absolutely.
anything across the world because of the internet service. And what I'm seeing is that people use their phone to play with and entertain, but they're not using the phone to understand that it's a business technology tool as well. And you could do so many phenomenal things with that phone. Use it to your advantage to grab as much knowledge as you can, even if it's self-taught knowledge.
so as far as the solution, you were just talking about it, self-taught, go out and find out, be aggressive about what you learn, and where can we buy your book?
My book is at Amazon. You can get it at Amazon.com, since you mentioned Amazon, love them. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. We also have electronic versions at Kindle and Nook at Barnes
Oh,
& Noble.
okay.
So you can get it in a lot of places. We haven't got to iTunes yet, but it's coming to iTunes hopefully in a couple weeks.
What will I get from this book?
Well, first of all, you get an economic history of black people from the slavery up until now, because we need to understand where we fit into America. Right now, black community is the 12th largest nation in the world. We have $1.3 trillion. We are bigger than Russia. But we don't act like we're bigger than Russia, because I don't think we know this. So that's in the book, to kind of talk about how big we've grown and what economically we bring to the table. Because when you know you're big and you act like it, people treat you with a different respect level. So we take the economic history from actually slavery all the way up to 2017, so you can see where you fit in and how things are happening and how they happen and what you need to do to make some changes so that you can profit for the rest of the 21st century.
Absolutely. Now, how do they get in touch with you, or are you in the schools so they can learn about
Well, you can
your
always catch me
programs?
online. Our website is www.upliftinc.org, and that's Uplift, and that's UPLIFTINC.org. Or they can find us on Facebook under Uplift. They can find us on Twitter under Uplift. They can find us on Instagram and Pinterest. So we're in a lot of different spaces to find us on social media. because I believe in technology, so I live by
Right,
it.
right, absolutely. The world believes, so much of the world believes in technology, and if you don't get with it, you're going to fall way behind.
And I think that we have the consumer technology, the social media down to a science. I just don't think we've made the transition from consumer media to business technology. Because
Absolutely.
right now, what people don't realize is black people really drive the social media area.
About what?
Oh, we push it. We push. We're using it in droves.
I know we
Unfortunately,
use it,
sometimes it's
but
not productive.
I know we use it.
I don't want to
know
say that
we
on the air, but
no, but
but a
let's
lot of
be
it's not
honest.
product- a lot of it's not
Let's
productive.
be honest, because there's so many things that we get into that are just frivolous. I mean, I
It
mean, it's
is.
nothing wrong with having fun on the computer.
It
I do
is.
it. I do it. I have so many different platforms and so forth. But sometimes you got to get down to business. I've learned a lot by just researching things on
Absolutely.
the things that I
Absolutely.
had to go into books and so forth and so on. You know, you could go into, I've gone into university archives of different universities
Yes.
to research
And
information.
you can do that because it's all at your fingertips. And so, yeah, we do get into a lot of frivolousness because I don't really think we understand how powerful it is as a business tool. I was looking at a young African American. He's now 12, who runs a YouTube channel called Young Presidents. He started it when he was 10. He has like over 10 million subscribers. And so I was watching a little YouTube of him. His parents are making $1 million from his YouTube channel, and it's comedian. He's having fun at it, but he's making money at it.
Oh,
You know,
that's
so much so he
wonderful.
had President Obama on his show.
Oh my God.
Get
I
it,
like
young
it.
president.
Yeah,
And I was very
yeah.
impressed. So you can be frivolous, but in your frivolousness, let's make some money at it.
But I also want to warn about the frivolousness, because your employer or future employer could look you up.
Oh, most definitely. And I tell people, I don't use social media only for business purposes, and probably because I have a background in HR. And I'm going to tell you the first thing most employers are going to do, they go search your social media first before they bring you in on an interview. So my thing is, some things you just shouldn't be like, you see people having nude pictures or close to nude pictures. None of that stuff should be on the media, because it can be retrieved. And you don't want that stuff to be retrieved. But people don't think about it.
You got to think about it. You have to think about what you do. And when you rise up in the world, you got to think about when you go into a store, a party store, what you get out of that party store too. You never know who sees you, who says, "Hey, Miss Pyramid," oh, and you say, "Oh, what am I doing with this wine?" You know. Anyway, too much.
Oh, we're in
But
the land
I'm
of
just
Big
saying,
Brother.
we are in the land of Big Brother for
Yes, we
sure.
are, for sure.
Absolutely, for sure. So, Ida Byrd-Hill, I love this. Invisible Talent Market by Ida Byrd-Hill. You need it, look at it, and empower yourself. Don't wait for the world to empower you. Empower yourself.
And that's what I'm saying. Get your own economics.
And demand that the
education.
education system teaches our children.
Absolutely, because without that technology education, we're doomed.
Absolutely. Well, stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back in just a minute. I want to thank you. I mean, I think you woke some people up this morning.
I hope so, because